I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will the clerk please read the statement?
This is a meeting of the Township Council for Monday, March 12, 2018. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press on January 5, 2018, and was posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Roll call.
Councilmember Williams? Here. Councilmember Kadish?
Here.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Here.
Councilmember Allberger?
Here.
Council President Murphy?
Here. Please rise to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, we will not be having a public hearing this evening on the Abandoned Properties Ordinance. That's Ordinance 1810, so if there's anyone here specifically for that ordinance, just want to let you know in the beginning. We have a couple proclamations. Will Mayor Shortway please read the proclamations?
Robert, you want to come up first? It is proclamation. Whereas, since its establishment in 1911, the Eagle Scout Award represents the highest ranking within the Boy Scouts of America. And whereas qualifying for its prestigious badge requires considerable perseverance, hard work, and dedication, which few Scouts attain. And whereas Robert E. Riley, a member of Boy Scout Troop 404 in Vernon, graduated from Vernon Township High School in 2017 and is currently attending Sussex County Community College. Whereas Robert has fulfilled his major community Eagle project by planning and constructing a raised stone planter base around the sign of Lady of Fatima Church in Highland Lakes section of Vernon Township. Whereas through hard work, loyalty, community service, and helpfulness, Robert has realized his goal of achieving the rank of Eagle Scout. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Township of Vernon that sincerest congratulations are hereby extended to Robert E. Riley for his commendable achievement in receiving the prestigious Eagle Scout Award, Badge Award as a member of Boy Scouts Troop 404, presented March 12, 2018, by myself. Congratulations. Mark, come on up. Proclamation. Whereas, since its establishment in 1911, the Eagle Scout Award represents the highest ranking within Boy Scouts of America. And whereas qualifying for this prestigious badge requires considerable perseverance, hard work, and dedication, which few Scouts attain. And whereas Mark J. Riley, a member of Boy Scout Troop 404 in Vernon, is currently a junior at Vernon Township High School and member of the Order of Arrow Honor Society of Scouting. And whereas Mark has fulfilled his major community Eagle project by planning and constructing a storage shed in the rear parking lot of Lady of Fatima Church in Highland Lake section of Vernon Township. Whereas through hard work, loyalty, community service, and helpfulness, Mark has realized his goal of achieving the rank of Eagle Scout. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Township of Vernon that sincerest congratulations are hereby extended to Mark J. Riley for his commendable achievement in receiving the prestigious Eagle Scout Badge Award as a member of Boy Scout Troop 404, presented by me this day. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we have public comments. Please note comments are limited to 3 minutes per person on current agenda items only. May I have a motion to open the floor to public?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there anyone from the public that has any comments would like to address the council?
Sally Rinker, Vernon. My comments tonight refer to the introduction of ordinances 18-09, titled Charitable Solicitations, and 1812, Personnel Policies. First of all, this agenda tonight is a gross mismanagement of issues and policy making, 18-09, charitable solicitations, is a poorly written and overbearing ordinance that will effectively shut down the feasibility of our volunteer organizations in Vernon, holding the fund drives that make up a large part of their operating funds. The taxpayers of Vernon will need to support these organizations with larger sums of money from our general budget. So they will be greatly impeded by the ridiculous requirements set forth in this ordinance for their fundraising. I am asking that this council table this ordinance tonight and start to have the informative dialogue with our residents at workshops for issues such as this that greatly impact us all, and I maintain will also further burden the taxpayers who are already heavily burdened here in Vernon. You know, we're starting to see aggressive postings of ordinances on our agendas that have no discussion at the council nor workshops. No information whatsoever. They come on and they go off. They get voted on or they get taken away. And 18-12 likewise. What is the financial feasibility of removing the stipend we give to employees who do not take health benefits, when they can then choose to take the benefits, which will cost taxpayers tens of thousands of more dollars? What kind of financial sense are we making? If it makes sense, don't tell us this isn't a question and answer period. Start explaining the reasons for your decisions that affect us all. Your elected positions are not to dictate, they are to govern as public servants. You know, maybe if there was more explanation and discussion, people wouldn't come to this podium and ask a question only to be told you can't ask a question. It's absurd. We really have to start having the discussions that we used to have in this room many years before now. If it makes sense, tell us. Start explaining the reasons for your decisions that affect us all. I was appalled to see the behavior at the February 15th, 2018 meeting from this council president to residents making inquiries. The remainder of this council is responsible for council's behavior collectively.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else that would like to address? I know some other people came in, so I just wanted to let you know once again that if anyone's here for the abandoned property ordinance, we will not be having a public session this evening.
I'm sorry, which ordinance was that?
The ordinance 18, the abandoned property ordinance.
Okay, you're not having that tonight?
No.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Jessie Palladini, and I just want to state that some of these ordinances that you have on tonight's agenda, I have to reiterate, no discussion whatsoever, nothing, no comment whatsoever from any of the council members, no public disclosure of what you're planning to do. Now, I am one who has attended Vernon Township Council / committee meetings for 30-plus years. I can remember work session after work session where everything our governing body did was discussed in full before an ordinance or a resolution was put on the agenda. I would ask John Auberger and Mark Tassel and even anyone sitting up there if you even read a single page of these 20 to 30-page ordinances or understand what's even in them. Mr. Van Tassel, you campaigned on being a new voice, but so far you have been no voice. The public has the right to hear the rationale and the reasoning for these ordinances as required by the Open Public Meetings Act, by the way. There is a clause in there that says that the public has the right to know your intentions and your discussions and your motivation. So I suggest that you table any further action on any of these ordinances. I'm not going to get into the details. One thing that came to mind was Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, who will no longer be able to raise funds through Clean Communities Act because the ordinance says that no one under the age of 18 can even be on the roads. And as we know, Clean Communities is about picking up garbage on the roads. So my final thing is that I want to say that the Open Public Meetings Act states that you must set aside a portion of every meeting of the municipal governing body for public comment on any governmental issue that a member of the public feels may be of concern to the residents of the municipality. I'm sure Mr. Towns can enlighten you on the Open Public Meetings Act. For anyone that doesn't know it, though, I have copies for you. It does not say that during public period 1 or public comment period 2, based on the Open Public Meetings Act, it says a member of the public should be allowed to discuss any matter within that time frame. So I'm here to tell you that I am a disabled person. I cannot sit through your entire meetings and wait until the end to make a comment. So what I want to know is if you will allow me now to comment on an item that is not on your agenda.
I'm sorry, we will not.
You will not allow me to comment.
You will have to wait till the next, because then
So
we
you
would have to open it up.
discriminate against
I'm not
disabled
discriminating. This is how the meeting is run.
Yeah, but
Thank
if
you.
you can't
Thank-
stay
thank
because
you.
of a disability,
Thank you.
why
Is there
can't
anyone
we
else? Is there
accommodate
anyone
it?
else that would like to address the
I think
council?
You're making a mistake.
Seeing no one else, may I have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we'll go on to the minutes. May I have a motion to adopt the following minutes? Executive session meeting minutes from February 15th, special meeting minutes from February 15th, 2018, the regular meeting minutes of February 15th, 2018, and the special meeting minutes from February 21st, 2018. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Wu?
Roll
Yes.
call.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yep, roll call.
Councilmember Wu?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Kaden?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yep.
Councilmember Alberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes. Next, we have the introduction of the 2018 municipal budget. Pursuant to Local Finance Notice 2017-27, the council must adopt this resolution before the municipal budget is introduced. Resolution 1804. This certifies the township will comply with the Civil Rights Act. May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Wu?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaden?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Alberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes. Resolution 18108, the 2018 municipal budget. Well, Mayor Shortway, CFO Elka Yetter, would you please introduce the 2018 budget at this time? The public hearing will be held at the council meeting on April 9th, 2018 at 7 p.m. in the Municipal Center.
Good evening, council members, Mayor Shortway, Administrator Volker, and residents. Tonight I will be highlighting the 2018 budget. What I want to talk about tonight is how the numbers translate into services that the municipal government provides. One of the best features that Vernon has is its beauty. The views from various areas of the town are outstanding. Take a drive along 565 by the Wildlife Refuge and you can see for miles. Same holds true coming down Route 515 towards the town center. Take a walk up Stairway to Heaven, and as you can see here, it's worth the hike. So would you rather live here or here? There are plenty of areas in New Jersey that look more like this. Having more homes in your town, and in essence more taxpayers per square mile, will help defray some of the costs that all towns are required to spend on the services we must provide, such as snow removal. But do you want to live on top of your neighbor? How about the noise here? We also do not have all of the noise that many deal with in this heavily populated state. On a summer night, I would much rather hear the peepers than fire trucks, police cars, and traffic. We also have many lakes, rivers, and other areas of town that show off the beautiful, tranquil area that we call home. Agriculture and farmland is another of our resources in this town. While many people must commute, not everyone is so lucky to have such a relaxing environment when they come home. The 2010 census reported that Vernon Township has a population of 23,943 people. The township covers approximately 68 square miles. The budget is reflective of both the size, topography, and population of Vernon. The township budget for 2018 is $25,338,858. Miscellaneous revenues account for roughly 1/3 of revenue, while the other 2/3 received from taxation. The average taxpayer will pay $1,392 per year for municipal services. According to an article in NewJersey.com on September 20th, 2017, titled "These Towns Are the Property Tax Bargains in Each of New Jersey's 21 Counties," Vernon was listed as the best bargain in Sussex County. In 2017, Vernon had the 5th lowest overall tax rate in the county and the lowest rate in the county for a township that has a police department. While New Jersey in general is a high property tax state, Vernon Township is controlling its costs and is preparing its budget with the future of Vernon in mind. So how do we equate a tax bill to other costs in our life? For a family of 4 that own smartphones, a monthly bill can easily cost $200 per month. For a year, that equates to $2,400 per year. The municipal tax bill for the average taxpayer is about $1,000 less per year, or $1,392. The 2018 budget figures say that the average payer will pay $1,392 for municipal services. That equates to $3.81 per day. So what does $3.81 per day provide for you? These are our services that the township provides. Public safety costs the average taxpayer 80 cents per day. This includes 24/7 service from the police department's dispatch center. It also includes town contributions to 4 volunteer fire departments and 2 volunteer ambulance squads, as well as equipment repairs to various volunteer departments and the state-mandated testing for items such as hose testing, fit tests, etc. Our fire prevention office, which performs fire inspections, investigates fires, and teaches our children about fire safety, is also included in this number. The Department of Public Works consists of road repair and maintenance, fleet maintenance, buildings and grounds, recycling, and the Municipal Services Act reimbursements. This costs the average taxpayer 43 cents per day. The Department of Public Works is required to maintain and remove snow on 103.7 miles of township roads, and we are also responsible through the Municipal Services Act for snow removal for 70.5 miles of qualified private community roads. Snow and ice removal in 2017 cost the township $1.2 million for labor, equipment, and materials. The DPW is also responsible for paving, oiling stone, drainage, guide rail repairs, brush control, tree removal, street sweeping, clean communities, recycling center. The fleet maintenance department cares for over approximately 135 vehicles, trailers, and heavy equipment. We also maintain and repair township-owned buildings. General government is 51 cents per day. In order to run the everyday operations of the municipality and maintain the required offices, there are various departments within the town. These offices process building permits, zoning permits, food handler licenses, marriage licenses, birth and death certificates, OPRA requests, court transactions, and animal licenses. They also collect taxes, assess values to the properties in town, process tax appeals, process farmland assessment, run the land use board, process invoices, make deposits, and handle payroll. All of these offices, plus other overhead costs, the average taxpayer 51 cents a day. Parks, Recreation, and Senior Center costs the average taxpayer 6 cents per day. The town has a very active recreation and senior community. Maple Grange Park is a well-known park that provides space to the many sports leagues that use it, as well as having 2 age-appropriate playgrounds and areas to have picnic lunch at. Veterans Park provides room for the various softball, baseball, soccer, and horseshoe leagues to utilize. In 2017, we added some playground equipment for small children to play at Veterans Field. Once the ADA-compliant walkway is installed, that area will also be available for the community. Listed on my slide are the programs that the township runs, as well as programs that the PAL runs through our agreement with them. Also included in that 6 cents per day is the Senior Center. The Senior Citizen Center works in conjunction with Sussex County as a nutrition site which offers low-cost lunches to seniors. The Senior Center also offers many classes to seniors, including exercise, gardening, crafts, as well as holiday parties. We also work in conjunction with the county for a senior bus program, which provided 6,079 rides in 2017. We are in an attorney state, and as a township, we are required to carry various lines of insurance. Our insurance costs run the average taxpayer 73 cents per day. Capital, debt, and deferred charges cost the average taxpayer 54 cents per day. Capital and debt service payments provide for various purchases and improvements. They include the purchase of new vehicles, heavy equipment, dispatch equipment, and terminals, radio communications, police cameras, major building improvements such as the replacement of the roof, and infrastructure such as sewer and water hookup for the municipal building. Due to the topography of the township, the steep roads cause vehicles to have more wear and tear in terms of brakes and transmissions than a township with all flat roads would. Capital requests are looked at each year, and not all requests get approved. We look to see if equipment can be used for another year and also to see if certain equipment can be purchased used. These costs are spread over the useful lives of the assets. The township is working to aggressively pay down this debt so that more of your tax dollars are going to equipment and not to pay off interest. Deferred charges refer to the special notes for certain items such as our tax maps and revaluation. Statutory expenses cost an average taxpayer 31 cents per day. While Social Security has not had a rate change in years, the employer pension contribution has increased dramatically over the years. The local municipalities continue to pay their full liability each year, but the state does not, which has an effect on the overall performance of the pension funds. Years ago, the town used to be charged approximately 8% for PFRS and 3.65% for PERS. We are now at 25.14% and 11.21%, or an increase of $855,000 over time. Our reserve for uncollected taxes costs the average taxpayer 43 cents per day. In order to make our payments to the schools and county, we have to charge for billings that we estimate will not be collected in the current year. This is either from the delinquent taxpayers or properties that the township holds liens on for non-payment. All of these services add up to $3.81 per day for the average taxpayer. Included in these costs are long-term issues, such as redevelopment, water, protecting our interests in the Mountain Creek bankruptcy, foreclosing on old tax liens on vacant lots so we can sell those who want and can use them, growing our fund balance, funding our road improvement programs, and paying down our debt. We are looking towards the future and appropriating funds accordingly. This concludes my introduction of the 2000 budget. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Alka. Nice job. Very nice.
Do any of the council members have any questions?
Yes, before we introduce the budget, and you all know my view that it should come down, that $80,000 that's in there for paid ambulance service sounds like it's not going to go through. So can we take that out, lower it?
Well, we don't know yet if it's going to go through or
Well,
not.
I think we have a general idea. I mean, what about anybody down there?
Well,
I
brought
think
it up.
it should have
I
been
brought it
voted
up.
on before we allotted the
I
money.
brought it up at the budget meeting, and nobody said a word.
Well,
I'm
because
just saying, I brought it up.
New information has come out,
Right.
so if we should have voted on that before we allocated the money, no sense having that money sit there and charging the taxpayer for
Well-
that if it's not going to go through.
There still are problems with response time, and I saw it firsthand approximately 3 weeks ago. I was leaving Wayway Yonda. It was a Sunday morning, and I saw it from Lake Glenwood Pochuck rig up on in Barry Lakes. 2 police cars and the paramedics were coming.
Mm-hmm.
That was a CPR call, I later found out. That's unacceptable that we were sending a car or an ambulance from that section of town getting to the mountain where every minute counts. We were very fortunate that day because they happened to be in the building. They responded in 12 minutes, which is outstanding with this distance covered. But that's only on a weekend when we were told the town was properly covered. One unit at one far end of the town is not properly covering this town. It used to be all 3 houses were manned on the weekends, but even if we could get 2, that would be fine. On the weekdays, we've been told again and again, 4 days I think it is of the week, they cannot man crews. So why should St. Clair's be walking away with this money when we could be putting it into accounts to buy new equipment for our emergency services, especially the rigs?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of issues with it. I don't see it going through.
And I agree that there
we
are
are
issues.
covered by St. Clair's.
On
So
the
we
weekends.
don't have, well, even at night we use our own people. So we do have coverage. It's not that we don't have coverage.
Is it adequate?
Well,
You're a nurse. You
4
know
days
CPR counts
adequate,
every
and the
minute.
rest of the week and evenings are not adequate. So you're saying then we would have to go full-time
No,
paid.
not. If they
So
have
how
a,
can
if
you?
they have a house filled on Highland Lakes and one's filled over here, they can adequately cover it. They're on both sides.
Yeah, but that's every other time except those 4 days. You're saying.
What are you going to do during the daytime?
Hasn't the issue been during the daytime for coverage?
Yes.
And that particular call where they had to come over, was there already a rig out on another call, and that was the backup
Not when
crew?
I checked up on it.
Okay.
Vernon covers the whole town on Saturday. This is what I'm being told. Glenwood on Sundays.
It's the nature of the beast with the volunteers.
And they do a fantastic job. They are absolutely
and I know,
amazing people. They really are.
And I'll say it out there, if the firemen had to do what it takes to be an EMT, you'd be talking about paid fire departments because we couldn't even keep up with what they have to do.
And I
for
think
the
this is why we
continuing
can't get
education
volunteers.
credits.
It's so demanding on them. But our volunteers do a fantastic job. They really do.
Well, what happens, and this, I mean, I know that the ambulance squads are increasing their membership and they're trying to do everything they can to man, their buildings and send out ambulances. But what happens, and I'm just saying is because I'm not quite sure that whole paid ambulance is, I've spoken to a lot of people, is the way to go. But what happens in the meantime if in 3 months we find out that it's not working? I mean,
Because
we're
you're
not
gonna
required. We're not
volunteers.
required as a township to provide ambulance service.
Right, we're not.
So, but what happens in the town if in 3 months we cannot? And that's just it. The money's in the budget. Either way, where will it come from and what will happen? But like I said, I'm not advocating either way. It's just that they're in the rebuilding stage.
Well, 80 isn't even going to get. I mean, the way I figure and the way research I've done, 80 isn't going to get you very far.
Wasn't 80 the 6 month? 80 was the 6 month amount of money to be able to carry the township for that. That's how that was originally explained to me.
That was told to us by Sparta when we went and met with them.
But either way, like I said, the problem is I know that they're all in the rebuilding stage, but what happens if, like I said, whether it's 3 months or 4 months, if it's not working?
What's not working, the paid or the
volunteers? Like I said, they're in the process of rebuilding, and I think they're doing a great job at it.
Right, they
but
are.
what happens if it fails, if we end up without enough coverage?
Well, we have St. Clair's for those 4 days. Nothing changes. You're saying if the volunteerism goes down, well, they'll have to cover another day. Because you won't have any volunteers after this.
Why not? They volunteer for the good of the community. Their
I
hearts
don't
are in
know.
it.
Well, it's
I
not,
don't know about that.
right, but I don't think the issue right now is whether or not we're going to a paid ambulance or not. It's whether or not we keep the money in the budget just in case, because that's really what's at hand right now.
True. Well, I
So-
say,
Just an
And
insurance
it's-
policy. I mean, I wish we had enough volunteers. We just stay with our volunteers like it's always been.
I think that's the direction that we have to go. There are many more state grants available to the volunteers that disappear when you hire a full-time ambulance squad.
What state grants are those?
Well, you have to ask them, but that's,
Yeah, but we're still
that's
not,
what's available.
we're still not on the, whether or not
I-
we're hiring a paid ambulance. This
no,
is,
I say, why leave the money sit there if we're not going to use it? And then my other question is water to the town center. That is definitely going to happen this year?
You can't say it's definitely going to happen. We have to vet it all out, what the actual cost is, but the money's there to bond. Yes, I want to go forward with that. And I hope the
Because
council.
we've been talking about this for 3 years, so now we have that money there we're paying for that we may not use.
If we said yes tomorrow to Suez, it will take them 18 months to put those new pumps in. So we're, like Elka said, and when we look in the budget, what's good for the future? So yes, we want to bring water, and we've been talking about it more than 3 years. I mean, if you read the 2009 forensic audit report, they're like, why did we even start construction on a downtown center when you don't have enough water? We had the allocation. Suez didn't have the infrastructure. Now, phase 2, the bid went through. We should have water here in April on Church Street. So finally, we can get our fire suppression system. The interest over here building the restricted living can start their construction. So water will be coming. That's phase 2. That's for phase 3.
No, I
We have
think
to still
should
negotiate
run
the
phase
contracts.
3.
We have exchange going. Matter of fact, in mid-April, the CEO for all Suez is coming from Paris, and he's chosen our community as one of the communities he's going to come in and look at and discuss our water. I mean, he's going to go through the country, but we are one of those communities. So we have an open dialogue with them. We need to make this go. How much longer can we go without bringing water to the main section of town, to the town center?
Well,
I think we
nothing's
have to do
there,
it now.
So
What's that?
they all have water right now, so it's not an
We're going to do with
emergency.
any new development. You need additional
Yeah, but we
EDUs.
need people to build so they'll use that water.
We need to attract them. They have to have the availability of water. We have to create EDUs. We're 54,000 gallons per day short, which I think translates to about 516 EDUs a day.
In the budget, the money for water is for the down payment.
payment.
So it's going in capital improvement fund. So if the water does not get voted on by the council, or things don't go the way it was planned, then that money is sitting in capital improvement fund. It's not getting spent and it's not borrowed.
Correct, but we're still paying
So-
taxes. I mean, our money's going towards that.
Right, but that would be less than that you would have to raise next year for that. It would stay in capital improvement fund until it was used for future capital ordinances. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Well, what's the percentage to the average homeowner?
The percentage, I have the tax rate, it's 65 cents. 65 cents per hundred.
And so what is that in percent? Didn't you say at the last meeting 4.46?
The amount to be raised has increased 3.96%.
How much?
3.96%.
There are no clean community monies entered here. Is that because we don't have a grant any longer?
We get the grant towards the end of the year, and we put it in the budget as a Chapter 159.
Okay. So we have no money for this year.
Well, we have the 17 money that we get at the end of the year, and we can use it all. We have about 40-some.
Can we get a
45,000.
breakdown for the $3 million for the water upgrades as to how that's going to be spent?
From Suez?
Well, no, you have an estimate of $3 million.
They've given various estimates. They don't know exactly how much the different pumps are going to be because because of New Jersey, it's about the lead even inside the pumps.
Yeah.
And again, that's part of it, the negotiation. They've told us it's not going to be more than $3 million. Of course, we're going to try to get it down less than $3 million.
Because
But when
originally
the
it was-
time comes, you'll have the contract in front of you with all the breakdown.
Okay. Yeah.
Have any questions? No? Have any questions? You have any other?
No.
May I have a motion to adopt the budget with a public hearing to be held on April 9th, 2018?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Owens,
No, I'd like to see come down a point.
Councilmember Kadesh,
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel.
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger.
Yes.
Council President Murphy.
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce the budget with a public hearing to be held on April 9th.
Next, we have Resolution 18109, self-examination of the 2018 budget resolution. The local finance board examines one-third of all municipal budgets on an annual basis. The remaining two-thirds are eligible for self-examination. The township's budget was examined by the local finance board in 2016. This resolution demonstrates that the township is performing a self-exam of the 2018 budget as reviewed by the CFO. May I have a motion to adopt Resolution 18109?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember Kadesh,
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel.
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger,
Yes.
Council President Murphy.
Yes. Next, we go on to the consent agenda. I just wanted to ask if our township attorney, Resolution 18107. If you could just make some comments on this resolution as far as, I guess because it's not, the Greenway Committee.
Okay,
Greenway
so
is not required to have
No.
minutes.
this resolution 18-107 is contemplating a payment for secretary to keep minutes for the Greenway Action Advisory Committee. The township is more than free to make this expenditure. However, by law, the Greenway Action Advisory Committee isn't required to keep minutes. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, the Greenway Action Advisory Committee, it's an ad hoc committee. It's not considered a public body under the Open Public Meeting Act. Moreover, as an ad hoc committee, it's not comprised of a quorum of the township council, and it's also not a statutory creation like some other boards within town, like the land use board, which is subject to a litany of statutes and other legal requirements.
But
So why are you explaining this? So are you
if
saying?
we approve this motion,
Yeah,
then it does require minutes.
no, it doesn't
As soon as it
require.
receives the budget, it requires minutes because we're spending taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, I mean, if you're allowed to keep minutes, what I'm saying is not legally required.
So we don't have to keep minutes for that committee, correct?
Correct.
So then why are we paying somebody to do the minutes unless there's a reason you want the minutes to be done?
I mean,
So
that's
why are we?
It's in the resolution.
Pardon me?
Did you read the resolution?
Yeah.
Okay. Because they have requested one, so that's.
So they're requesting the minutes to be done.
They want to, even though they don't have
Are they going to post them?
We've already looked on posting it on our page. They can post them on the Greenway Friends. We want people to know, since we're looking at trail systems,
I
plus we
understand.
applied for a $250,000 grant, that we are being, I hate using the word, transparent. You can see what's going on inside the GAC committee.
So will you post them on the town website?
Yes.
Okay. So they will be posted on the town website. Okay.
The consent agenda.
Okay, before you start, Ms. Murphy, could you pull out 18103 for separate action?
10 what?
18-103. Separate action. Okay, that one. And then I'm going to make a request. I know I said something at the last meeting that we read the titles to the resolution, so people that are watching on the tapes, on television, or in
Fine.
the audience know what we're voting on.
Not a problem.
Pardon me?
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Resolution 1890. This renews the pocket license for Hidden Valley for the 2017-2018 season. Resolutions 1891 through 1895 and 18101 refund tax overpayments and refund or cancel taxes for totally disabled veterans. Resolution 1896. The township bid this project out and it authorizes the construction of the Your Way construction. Resolution 1897. This accepts the completed project of the Barry Drive North, Phase 1. Resolution 1898. The township had a bid for auto parts. This awards that contract. Resolution 1899. This authorizes the township to purchase firefighter apparatus from Campbell. Resolution 18100. The township had a bid for electrical services, and this authorizes the contract award. Resolution 18105. This authorizes the use of the Houston Galveston Co-op for the purchase of the fire truck. Resolution 18106. This authorizes the amendment for the interlocal services agreement to correct the stipend for the water operator. Resolution 18107. This provides a secretary for the Greenway Action Advisory Committee. What did you say?
102.
Missed.
Did I miss 102? Oh. Resolution 18102. This extends the payroll services for Action Data. So now, may I have a motion to adopt Resolutions 1890 through 18102 and 18105 through 18107?
Motion.
May I have a second?
A second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes?
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Alberger?
Yes, but I abstain on 1899 and 18105.
And Council President Murphy.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolutions 1890 through 102 and 105 through 107.
Okay. Next, we have Resolution 18103. This authorizes Vernon's participation in the self-sufficiency project.
Let me just take a vote.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I could have
Roll call?
lumped it together, but I didn't.
I need a motion and a second.
Oh, motion?
Motion?
Second? May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Abstain.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes?
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Alberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution.
Next, we have the first reading of the proposed ordinance 1809.
Point of order?
Okay.
I don't think you included Resolution 18104.
We did that. We did that first.
Sorry.
Introduction of Ordinance 1809. This ordinance amends the solicitation chapter to allow for roadside solicitation. May I have a motion to introduce Ordinance 1809 with a public hearing to be held March 26, 2018? I'll make a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
No. And, you know, I have a lot of questions about this.
What?
I think we need to discuss this. This needs to be discussed.
Well, we can do that. Had you called anyone to ask any questions?
No, because I'd like to discuss it here.
No, I know, but I'm just saying,
This is
if
how
you had
we
had some
debate.
questions, we could have had Chief Mills here, and he could have been here to answer some of your questions.
If you guys know all the answers, maybe you can
Well,
fill me in. So apparently you guys must understand it in its
Well,
totality to be able to
Phone
answer
works
my
two
questions.
ways.
Pardon me?
I said you could call.
Well, first of all, I really
So
think
anyway-
it should be tabled. There's a lot of concern in this.
If this ordinance is tabled, then what will happen is the fire departments, ambulance squads, whoever, will not be able to do the roadside solicitation. They will not have their permits in time for them to do this. They're the ones, the fire departments, Chief Mills met with them. They were on board with this. They want to have this or they cannot do the roadside solicitation. Our ordinance was missing that factor in it. This isn't something that the chief of police came up with.
Well, I mean, there's some...
Did you want to add in on? What?
Well, first, how does it affect them then? Explain to me how it's going to affect the firemen and the veterans.
They're not allowed to do a roadside solicitation without the ordinance because our ordinance does not contain that provision.
But in here, it's talking about getting authorization from the state. Is that correct?
They do. If the county, like let's just say, for instance, Vernon Fire Department, if they'd like to hold a fundraiser on Route 94, they have to get an okay from the state. They're aware of this. They're aware they have to submit a diagram.
That, but
if Pochuck Firehouse is on 565, they have to submit an application to the county, which they have done, which they do on a regular basis. They've done it for several years. And they have to provide a diagram of where everything would be.
But they never had to do that in the past.
Pochuck Firehouse said that they have applied to the county.
That was in our ordinance.
No, but they knew that they had to apply. They knew that they had to apply, so they always did.
So in here, it talks about township roads and county and state. So when they apply to the county or the state, are they still following township? Because it talks about township roads and state and county roads.
Well, because
so it's still going to be monitored by the town?
The police, because the police, they're the ones that patrol the roads. So if there happened to be, if something went on in town, let's just say, for instance, a Spartan race, and let's just say, for instance, McAfee Fire Department was doing a fund drive, and it was interfering with 10,000 people coming into town, they may ask them to move or to cease. That's where the police department comes in. It's not to defray the emergency services from collecting money. They've made it very clear how important it is, and everybody knows. But without the ordinance, they will not be allowed to participate.
So what did they do in the past?
They've done it, and it hasn't been legal. And the police department brought it to the attention of administration. And Chief Mills has gone and met with the firemen. He's gone over and over this ordinance. It's gone back and forth.
I see that. It's done for safety purposes, but there's some things in here I question as well. So when these people are collecting, they generally stand in the middle of the road, correct?
Yeah. This is
they're on the
all comes down
driver's
from
side.
Chapter 39, which is the state motor vehicle laws. 39-4-60 lists all the elements that they have to do to make it legal. The first thing, I think it's in the first paragraph, says the township must have an ordinance to allow it. So they stand on the side of the road. When traffic stops, they then can approach the vehicles. So everything is spelled out in the state statute, but we need the ordinance to incorporate the state statute.
So this matches the state, all these...
I think it's almost word for word in the requirements. We're just doing what the state does. And when it came to our attention, we're like, we're not going to operate outside what the state requires. Let's hurry up as soon as possible to get the ordinance passed so we can get the volunteers and the VFW out there to pass, to solicitate, because they make considerable money doing this. They were hurt because we didn't have the ordinance in place on President's Day, and they're telling me that's one of their major days to solicit funds. And I think we had almost 13,000 visitors at Mountain Creek, so that was a lot of cars doing it. So we're just trying to bring up our ordinances to comply with state statutes.
So what about them giving a receipt? I mean, it says in here they have to give out a receipt.
For what donations?
For donations, yeah. So how is that going to occur? So when they take in money,
I'm just not aware of that receipt.
it says here.
I never, I'm not aware of that.
Am I right? It
No,
says
they have to
receipt.
be of age. They have to wear a color.
It says you have to
Said
get.
if you
So
can.
these are some of the questions here. When I said
If you
let's
can.
do it, yes, it says here.
Yeah.
Any person, and actually that should be crossed out, right? Because you're not talking about person. Throughout this ordinance, you cross out person. It's only Section 3 only has to do with charitable organizations. You cross out person throughout this, so that probably needs to be crossed out on it. But at any rate, that's just a minor thing. It says, any person or organization receiving money or any other thing of value of $1 or more from any contributor under a solicitation made pursuant to this article shall give to the contributor a written receipt signed by the solicitor showing the date and the amount received.
That's ridiculous.
Well, it says that here. I'm not making this up. This section shall not apply to any contribution collected by means of closed box or receptacle used in solicitation, or where it's impractical to determine the amount of each contribution. So maybe that's something that might need to be tweaked, because now they're going to have to supply receipts.
And I had to,
Some towns actually, what they do is some towns, excuse me, could you please stop? It's disrupting. What some towns actually do, some fire departments, they actually give, and I'm not suggesting they do this, but when you are traveling past one, a few times during the day, they may give a little note out that you put on your dash to say, I participated. This way, they don't feel like every time they drive by they have to give.
Now, that's different than a receipt. A receipt is different than that, I believe. But so anyway, so these are the things that I'm bringing up. You can't have two within 2 mile distance of each other.
And that is therefore because actually what the chief wanted in that particular section. See how much easier it would be if you called when you had these questions, because you could have spoken to the chief.
Excuse me, Ms. Murphy.
No, but
this is debate and question.
This is not debate.
People might have all the same questions
but
I do.
But maybe some of this stuff wouldn't be in here.
Why? So we can discuss.
Hold on. Point of order.
Stop.
So please.
Stop. Why don't you leave?
Can you ladies please stop yelling from the audience? Public comment period is over.
There's nothing wrong with
If you would like to, sorry, Council, if you ladies would like to speak, please step outside. You're disturbing the meeting.
She's allowed. So anyhow, within the 2 mile radius, what the chief of police would have preferred is that he had control over only allowing it one organization per day, and he may extend it. So by having it within a radius like that, he would not like to see, let's say, for instance, the VFW and the Vernon Fire Department to be set up near the same intersection in one weekend, because that could create a traffic jam. So if the VFW is near their building and the fire department was right by the Luke Oil, that could pose a problem. That's what that's in place for. Although the fire department knows what days that the VFW is out there soliciting, and they always try to keep it from that. So that's one of the things. Or if, I'll just say, Vernon Ambulance, if they set up, they wouldn't want them to be too close maybe to the McAfee Firehouse if it was in the summer and there was a lot of traffic. That's what that's in there for. It's not to restrain them from doing it. It's really to keep the flow of traffic. And also it's for the residents in town.
Okay, I got my questions answered. But I think that receipt thing might want to come out. That's just my opinion.
What I've seen done in other jurisdictions is they have a receipt form made up that's pre-signed, and they allow the individual to fill out, because most times you're doing it for tax purposes. It's not for the agency that you're donating. It's for your purposes if you need receipts to submit to your accountant.
The idea.
So they're going to be required to do this then.
Well, it's easy.
Right,
If they're approaching a vehicle and accepting a donation, they can just hand the receipt at the same time.
The problem we have is the state's making this certain things required. We want to make it easy and as soon as possible so these organizations can go back to the roadside solicitations. So some of the things we can't take out because they're part of the state statute. There's just nothing we can do with it other than we find a simpler way, like pre-signed. If we can help them, we're going to help them.
Is that part of the state statute, is the receipt? That section?
Yes, I believe so.
Councilmember Kadish, you had a question?
So you may want to just do some typo here with crossing out person throughout this.
I will have that discussion with Chief Mills.
I think the idea that the traffic has to stop, and then the collector has to then run across the traffic and then collect, makes it inordinately impossible.
That's the state.
I think it makes more danger than it does.
Right, because now traffic is moving and they have to get to the shoulder while traffic is moving.
It also means that you can't do anything except around stoplights.
But what can we do if it's state statute? we want to give them the ability to start solicitations, but if that's the state's rules, that's the state's rules. We can't change state law.
The thing you also have to consider is our EMS and our firefighters, all volunteers, are covered by workman's compensation that's paid by the town. So we need to follow state statutes and have this ordinance in place if we are to effectively provide insurance for them. And I realize what you're saying, but I've seen it work where it's better than having somebody stand in the road when traffic's moving to wait till it stops, step out, and, listen, you're going to have to cross as traffic's moving. Hopefully they get over to the side of the road before that happens. But, and I realize what you're saying, there can be some close calls, but the person are going from a dead stop at that point, not a car going 10, 15, 25 or more miles an hour down the road.
It seems to me if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, in this case, it is broken because we've been doing it illegally, so we have to fix it. This is the fix.
Because the state views it that way. The state are elected officials as well as we are.
Do you have any?
Councilmember Kadish, you vote.
Begrudgingly, yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel.
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger.
Have to abstain.
Councilmember Murphy.
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce ordinance 1809 with a public hearing on March 26th.
Next, we have ordinance 1812, ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 89 of the Code of the Township of Vernon, entitled Personnel Policies. This ordinance eliminates the health insurance benefit waiver for township personnel. The reason that this ordinance was actually put on the agenda was to bring attention to the fact that when we went to the state insurance policy, we had 11 employees that were receiving insurance waivers. Once we went on the state plan, 5 of them were ineligible to receive them any longer. So we have 6 employees that are still eligible to receive. Going back, we have nothing in place. We have no mechanism in place allowing these payments to take place. Lauren did extensive research. She found in 2003 and in 2006 there were resolutions passed allowing the waiver payments for those years only. So all the other years, it would appear that these payments were being made. There were no resolutions in place, no ordinance, nothing. The payments were just happening. Now, one of the things to do is for the council members to decide how would you like to proceed with this. There's been no cost-benefit analysis done. Maybe what we want to do is ask the CFO that each year, by the first meeting of October, if a cost-benefit analysis could be provided, then the council can decide for that following year whether or not it's feasible to do it, because it could change from year to year. So, but to allow it to continue without anything in place, how do you just allow the employees to continue to be paid? I know that there were some employees, and I'm not sure if the 6 that are left, because I'm not even sure who the employees are. I know there was some employees were grandfathered, so they were actually, and I don't know if it was 1 or 4, were receiving a higher amount than others. I'm not even sure if that's something that was allowed. As far as, I don't believe any of these waivers are in any of the contracts. I'm not sure they're allowed. I looked in the employee policy, employee manual, nothing, can't find anything in there. So how does the council want to proceed with this one? My recommendation is to add to this ordinance. Well, we also have to decide now, the 6 employees for this year, they've already signed waivers. So they cannot, if they decided that they wanted to join the insurance, they cannot.
They can't do it.
Unless they unless they, for some reason, their insurance was dropped.
I was under the impression this was going to start at the beginning of the next year.
Well, we have the ability to change that, but that's what I'm saying is, but right this year, there's nothing allowing the payments to be happening now.
Well, then shouldn't we get something that says, defined it a little bit more as to this year versus next year? You want to do that?
Right, and that's why, actually, I have all my notes. I have the resolutions. They're the only ones that were passed for those 2 years. Yeah. We're also going to have to pass a resolution because there were 3 employees that did not qualify, 3 retirees that did not qualify to receive, for the town to pay their premiums. Is that not correct? Because of the,
Pay the state directly.
Right, we're not allowed to pay the state directly. So we may end up having to pass a resolution for that also.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are your thoughts down there?
Just got to weigh out what's the difference between the cost of them us keeping them on the waivers compared to them taking our medical plan. The difference between the two.
But if we
see which one is
well,
better for the town.
I would imagine the waiver's the benefit.
Yes, depending on how it fluctuates. But then,
what's the cost?
Right. So if every October, if the CFO provided us with this cost-benefit analysis by the first meeting, we would know in time for the following year, and then each year pass a resolution allowing it for that year.
I'll go along with that.
We would have to probably do it in September.
Well,
they have open enrollment is October.
Okay, so
they'd have the opportunity to. They'd have to have the opportunity to.
So we could start it. It could be the first meeting of September.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree to that. So this.
And then I mean, as far as for this year, since they've already signed their waivers, we probably should have a separate resolution allowing it. And then, this would become effective
next year,
but as long as with the thought process that we have that cost-benefit analysis.
Prior to
All
by
right, September.
So let's table this then with the new resolution to allow it for this year.
Cool.
All right.
And in the same time, we'll need the resolution for the other 3 employees, the retirees.
Anything? Anybody?
Are we introducing this? No.
Well, unless we can amend it to that.
No, I would like to see it tabled and come
Yeah,
back.
and that's fine.
Without
But this was
permitting.
It would be great if we could hear up here. This was put on in order to, because there are so many facets to it.
Well, I'd like to see all the specifics between now and the second reading.
And that's fine. That's acceptable. But like I said, there's so many issues with it.
Well, they have to be laid out on black and white so we can understand them.
You know, the other thing is
Come
hopefully
back with it next week with the new resolution written out and spelled out.
starting with.
All right, so let's table this. That's my suggestion.
But is it necessary to table?
Well, you're saying you want to see it all in black and white here. So I'd like to make a motion to table this. Come back with everything spelled out in black and white. Isn't that what
We
you
don't
just
have to
suggested?
table it, we haven't introduced it yet. We
Between
haven't
now
adopted it.
and the second
That's right.
reading,
Yeah.
we should have the specifics
Can't-
so we can deal with it.
Yeah. Well,
And whatever resolutions we need to introduce, we introduce them.
they would be separate from this. But,
That's correct.
Yeah.
But why can't we go ahead and introduce this? In the meantime, examine the issue.
well, I'm not sure if we need to. I mean, you can examine the issue without introducing it.
Then I'll second your motion.
Okay. I make a motion to table.
Just a table.
Thank you, Dan.
Well, we haven't introduced it, so no harm, no foul. So
So we can't table
we'll
it.
just move it. Yeah. So what we're going to add here is that what we're going to, we'll discuss it. We'll have the clerk prepare something and send it to our attorney. Okay?
All right, so we're
Then-
tabling this.
We don't need to table it. We didn't introduce it.
Oh, we didn't introduce it. Okay, all right. I'm good with that. Thank you.
So we'll have the clerk send a revised
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
changes to the attorney. Ordinance 1810. This is the second reading. May I have a motion to postpone the public hearing or table Ordinance 1810 to allow the township attorney to make various amendments, and with the amendments to be introduced on March 26th?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
So you're wait, before we do roll call, you're changing this here? Is that why we're not doing the second reading? So you're going to make changes to this?
Did you want
Is
to?
that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Can I say something before we do that? I feel that this ordinance is inordinately too complex, and it needs to be boiled down to much more simple language. It reads like a court case. And I just, it may be good for East Orange, but I think we need to simplify. I see areas that are duplications, clauses that seem to repeat other clauses, and I just think that it's far too complex and legalese for my taste. If you feel it's absolutely necessary to have all that language to protect the township, then it's another question. But I just feel that this is really increasing the revenue to the lumber companies.
Maybe we need a work session on this to boil this down to what is appropriate and what is not for our community. I see dollar signs here that the community is going to be paying.
On what?
For these rehab and for
No,
probably
that's-
litigation because...
Actually, I asked the attorney I asked Mr. Zielinski when you brought that up the first time, and he said he has absolutely no idea what you're talking about. So maybe if you could give
we're
him,
going to hire rehabilitation
maybe
for
if
these
you could
homes.
give him a call and speak to him about it.
Doesn't it say that here?
That's what I'm saying, is maybe if you could give him a call.
But doesn't it say here that we're going to pay to rehabilitate homes?
Yeah.
So
So,
that would cost us money, I would imagine.
so maybe if you could give him a call and speak to him.
Can we have a work session on it?
What was that, Mr. Allberger?
I said, can we have a work session on it?
Yeah, I think we really
be
should.
in
This
favor
is
of that.
very convoluted. Is this appropriate for our community? I mean, I don't understand
When would you like to
how-
schedule the work session?
It says here that we're going to hire somebody
When
to
would you
rehab
like to
these
schedule the
homes.
work
That must
session?
cost money. Unless that's free. Is that
Calendar
free?
in front of you?
Check the courtroom
I think a work session would be wonderful.
When would you like to schedule it? You have to check on, you said the courtroom?
courtroom calendar for availability.
Can you throw out some dates, Lauren, to us?
I can't without having the courtroom
No,
calendar.
when you find the availability?
I beg pardon?
When you have the availability in front of you?
So anyway, the motion is to table it. Can we move should we move the introduction date on it?
Yeah. We just put a motion to table.
Mhm.
This time.
So can I have a motion to table?
Motion.
Table.
A second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Ooms,
Yes.
Councilmember Kadesh.
Yes?
Councilmember Van Tassel.
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger.
Yes.
Council President Murphy.
Yes.
Motion carries to table ordinance 1810.
May I request a date by next meeting?
You mean that you'd like to have the work session before next meeting?
No, I want a date for when
So when we come to the next meeting and have an opportunity
In other
to
words,
choose what date.
we could defer this until next year. There's no date certain right now. I'd just like to pick a date.
Well, I don't know that we want to wait till next year.
That's right. I agree with you.
So,
let's pick a date in which we must start working on this.
well, when Lauren lets us know what dates are available, Lauren will let us know what dates are available for a work session.
Okay.
Items for discussion, illegal dumping ordinance. Would Administrator Volker like to address this issue?
Certainly. Just so the council's aware, it's not specifically an illegal dumping ordinance. The new ordinance would be called a soil placement ordinance versus a soil removal ordinance that we already have in place. We have nothing that addresses soil placement or soil being brought into the town. So that's the importance of the new proposed ordinance. Illegal dumping is, essentially broadened. There were already some things in place to address some of those things that could be otherwise illegal. With regard to soil placement, we received, had asked council to provide sample ordinances, which he did. We subsequently circulated them to the township engineer because in the samples that he provided us, and even with looking at others besides those, such as West Milford's, the engineer is a critical part of this for both removal and for placement of soil. So I set up a meeting with our land use, zoning, and our engineer to discuss the proposed ordinance that we had been given by the attorney and that we had from that we had looked at for West Milford. They had recently redone their ordinance, which again calls it soil placement. Corey Stoner, our township engineer, asked us to try to do a draft based upon the elements that we felt are most important to the township, talking with the zoning and land use to try to make an ordinance that would be more specific to Vernon, to try to help hold accountable the people in this town that we feel might be taking advantage of soil placement. That being said, we then took that draft and sent it to Mr. Stoner. The first meeting that we had was about 3.5 weeks ago. We sent him a draft about a little over 2 weeks, maybe about 2 weeks ago. And as everyone's aware, we've had a couple of nor'easters that put a burden on the entire county with power outages. And Mr. Stoner was not immune to that, both with his business and with his residents. I did speak to him last week, and he said that he had received the draft. He had noticed that he saw some things in it that he wanted to, expand upon, and that because of the difficulties he was having, both personally and professionally, he would like to have a little more time. And I said I certainly understand. He said he would try to get on it, get to it as soon as possible. So I'm hoping that perhaps before the end of the week, we get another draft that we can utilize to send to the attorney for review. And if the council chooses and they would like to see a sample of that before it goes to the attorney, we can certainly facilitate it unless you want it to be reviewed by the attorney before it gets distributed.
Should probably be reviewed by the attorney first. And the purpose of this is, in case residents haven't noticed, but there are large amounts of dirt showing up all over the community. And town needs to put something in place in order to prohibit this.
And just so the council also knows, in the interim, I have spoken to Chief Mills with regard to some of the issues related to the contractors that are bringing the soil into Vernon, and he said that he would try to address any of the contractors that are not complying with the law in terms of driving through the township, because we've heard reports that some of the trucks coming in are driving over the speed limit. that perhaps many of them are driving with their loads uncovered, which we all know. Most of us have probably had a windshield that has broken over the years from things flying out, and of course some of the excess load and or even after they dump the load, there's frequently a lot of soil and or mud being brought onto the road, which can also present a safety issue. So we've asked him to try to do as much enforcement as they can on contractors that are coming through town with soil, that they are in compliance with the law, to try to minimize the impact to the community.
So is this going to target the people bringing the soil in, or from the homeowner purchasing the soil?
The soil placement will be the regulations that people who live in the community or are building in the community will have to follow for bringing soil into the community. It will have nothing to do with the enforcement for the contractors, because that's already covered in Title 39 for traffic law.
So the homeowner is going to be responsible for the soil that's coming into the town
If
for
in
their
fact
use.
it's a homeowner.
For their use.
Yes, if in fact it's a homeowner, there will be a minimum amount that they would have to be involved with getting at least a permit.
Okay.
Right, so if somebody's talking about adding a little soil to their garden, we're not talking about that. We're talking about where you're bringing probably, and that was one of the things that the engineer was looking over. He wanted to even look at some other beyond the ordinances that were submitted by council and that we had from West Wilford, just to get a semblance of an idea what is a reasonable minimum amount that would be would have to adhere to this new ordinance.
Okay.
Next, we have public comment. Please note, public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. May I have a motion to open the floor to public comment? May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the council?
Yes, Sally Rinker-Vernon. You know, it's gotten pretty evident tonight that this council is suffering the effects of not working in the right direction. You know, we see these ordinances going on before debate and discussion, and then they have to be whisked back off or tabled, and it really should be done in a different direction. You know, you assess a situation, you make a plan, and then you execute it. And you can't make a plan unless you do that deliberation collectively as that governing body together. It can't be done behind closed doors or downtown during the day, during the week. It's got to be here at the dais when you can all have equal input. And it looks very stumbling, you know, when we're trying to get things done. So, you know, I know Ordinance 18-10 was removed from the agenda tonight, but I didn't study all 22 pages of it to not comment tonight, so I'm going to comment anyway. I don't even know where to start with this inappropriate and poorly written piece of legislation. There's nothing more, it's nothing more really than growing our government, meddling in properties owned by others with no competence or right to do so. It's like creating this entire bureaucratic arm of the government. You know, the mayor's going to appoint somebody to be like the building police, and who's going to decide whose building needs addressing or not? I think it's not going to be fairly executed, potentially. This ordinance will be used to target individuals, in my opinion, and will not be a benefit to taxpayers if our money goes to repair properties belonging to others. And yes, that is what the ordinance says, because anyone can clearly read it for themselves. We don't need attorneys to decipher that. This ordinance, if passed, will be one of the biggest blunders of this administration. This ordinance is akin to your paid ambulance ordinance, another poorly written, ill-conceived plan that will be a financial disaster to this town and volunteerism as we now know it. There are enough issues in this town that need proper addressing. We have no time for plans where we're set up to fail before we even start. I will call this ordinance the Schottmeyer ordinance, Miss Murphy. It was born from you with your plan to target buildings in this town. It's an abuse of power, and it must not only be removed from tonight's agenda, but all agendas going forward. I want to read an excerpt from the Open Public Meetings Act, and maybe Mr. Towns would like to also pay attention to it, because I would like you to. NJSA 10:4-7 clearly says, the legislature finds and declares that the right of the public to be present at all meetings of public bodies and to witness in full detail all phases of deliberation, policy formulation, and decision-making of public bodies is vital to the enhancement and proper functioning of the democratic process. And until we adhere to that, you're really violating the Open Public Meetings Act by not deliberating the issues of this town in a fair and open process in the public forum, and not by shutting down certain council members that want to ask questions, have communication with the rest of you. Is she supposed to meet you in a deli somewhere? If she wants to make a comment, she has to be shut down repeatedly by Ms. Murphy, who I believe is violating the Open Public Meetings Act by shutting down a fellow council person, not to mention members of the public when she gets her chance.
Could you wrap it up? You're running out of time.
I will gladly wrap it up. I commend Mrs. Ohms for asking questions and asking for discussion on matters to be voted on that affect us all. This council needs to support debate and discussion and stop letting this council president draw your image of silence and complacency. We're asking for it. You can really make the people that come here at this podium have a much better feeling about coming here and speaking and asking questions and asking for information. That's what it's supposed to be about. Not somebody making the decisions, throwing ordinances on agendas at 22 pages, and now we just whisk it away.
Your time is up.
Who did all this work for nothing tonight?
Thank you.
It seems to me the work is not being done and managed correctly. Too much influence, Ms.
Is there
Murphy.
anyone else that has a
Get out of the
comment? Could you
administrative
please be
office.
done?
You belong on the dais.
Yeah.
That's okay. I got to say what
Beverly Buds, Vernon. In 2011, Vernon lost 53,000 trees due to the Tennessee pipeline clearing. The Environmental Commission at that time worked very hard and won Vernon a $354,000 non-matching grant from the state of New Jersey to replace those lost trees. On December 23, 2013, the Vernon Council voted unanimously to accept the grant. Immediately, the DPW and I went to work planting and planting 240 evergreens. Nothing has been done since Harry removed me as administrator from the grant. The only action was the council voted by resolution in 2016 to award a contract for a licensed forester for up to $32,000 to work on plans for tree planting. The grant had a built-in timeline in which is set to expire July 2018. On January 30th, 2018, Mayor Shortway single-handedly, without resolution, canceled the grant by his letter to the state. A letter dated February 16, 2018, confirmed the mayor's letter to cancel the grant and the remaining $283,000 balance, which the town has now lost. This administration spent time and money and did not get one tree planted over the past 2 years. I want this public and council to know that Mayor Shortway received a check from the tree grant in the amount of $72,000 for the planting of 240 trees. The total amount spent on the tree planting to date is $26,000, all done before Harry took office, leaving a remaining balance of $46,000. This council should be asking this mayor, where is the money, Harry? The trees that I planted were neglected to the point of death under Mayor Shortway's watch. 20 trees have been removed already, and according to the grant requirement, which I checked with the DEP, the town must replace the dead trees at $300 a tree. Vernon owes $6,000 for dead trees thus far, and they must be replaced by the township funds, not the grant. And not to mention the unpaid monies owed to Ron Farr, the forester. I knew the town was falling behind on the grant timeline and offered my assistance to help finish the grant for no fee on at least 2 other occasions, tonight making the 3rd. Because the grant can be recouped, it's not gone. if you have enough people that are vested and interested, we can get it back and finish it like we should. Excuse me? I'll be done in a minute, Lauren. But instead, Harry chose to throw the grant away, and it's not been 3 minutes, blatantly disrespecting not only the people who worked so hard securing the grant, but all the residents of Vernon Township who would have appreciated the benefits of new trees in town. We have heard all of your phony excuses, Harry, as to why your administration was unsuccessful in fulfilling the grant requirements. But at the end of the day, there is no valid reason why you could have not successfully completed this grant. I believe it is spite and incompetence. Lauren, check your watch.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to make a comment?
Jesse Palladini. I also want to briefly discuss the tree grant. A week or two ago, an Oprah request was made of the clerk for all invoices regarding the tree grant from January 2016 to the present. The clerk sent a few invoices and receipts for some minor items. She did not provide the invoices from Forester Ron Farr, despite the request saying all invoices. Why not? We have since learned that Mr. Farr has submitted several invoices. The clerk did offer the information in the Oprah response, however. Mr. Farr has not been paid any monies. I find that very troubling that the Oprah request is for invoices. The clerk does not provide the invoices, but makes the comment that Mr. Farr has not been paid. I believe the clerk is dangerously treading on the Open Public Records Act, and this is not the first time. She recently told me that I had to pay $1,600. Yes, that's the amount. $1,600 for an Oprah request that I made for some email correspondence concerning the Memorandum of Understanding with National Winter Activity Center. When I told the clerk that I would not be extorted of $1,600, a few days later I received the 6 or 7 pages of emails that encapsulated exactly what I had requested. What she tried to do is she tried to make me pay for hours and hours and hours, whatever $1,600 would buy, from the land use attorney to search the records. It's her job to search the record, not the land use board attorney. So what she wanted $1,600 for, I got free of charge in email, and it consisted of 6 pages. So in closing, I just want to say that, and the last meeting that I attended, when I approached her about an Oprah request, and she made a comment to me, and I told her that she was in jeopardy of violating the Open Public Records Act and that the Government Records Council should be called in. Her response to me as she walked away from me was, ha, 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 ha. That was her response to her violation of the Open Public Meetings Act. Mr. Farr cannot be paid with the grant money. The DEP made that very clear to me today. So who's going to pay Mr. Farr $32,000 or however much he has incurred for all the work he's done? And he's done a great deal of work so far. Who's going to pay? Vernon taxpayers are going to pay that money.
Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council? Seeing no one else, may I have a motion to close to public?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor Shortway?
Yes, thank you. Sincere appreciation to the DPW, Police, Volunteer Emergency Services, and the Board of Ed for their services and residents' patience during the previous nor'easters. Our community really came together with compassion and care for one another. The New Jersey DOT municipal aid program is very competitive. The New Jersey DOT awarded Vernon $235,000 for Way Yonder road improvements. This will free up funds to complete Barry Lakes North road improvements. Much appreciation to our engineer, Corey Stoner, who authored the grant application. All are invited to join the Greenway Action Advisory Committee, or GAC, for a trail tour of the Town Center Trail and to learn more about the Vernon Greenway project, March 18th, Sunday at 10 a.m. at the base of Black Creek Drive. Leashed dogs are welcomed. A free s'more will be offered to all hikers. I am appointing Tracy Carter to serve on the Beautification Committee. 95 township properties no longer required for public use will be auctioned off on April 18th. Interested parties should visit maxband.com for information packages. Vernon Couch to 5K started yesterday. Any Vernon resident who desires to still join should contact Ms. Downtain at 973-764-4055, extension 2261, for further information. Thank you.
Thank you. Council comments. Councilmember Ohms?
Well, I thank all the DPW for doing a nice job with the roads. It's difficult work. I plow myself. It's fun for the first half hour, and afterwards it's tiresome. So thank you. Thanks to all the neighbors that helped each other out during the storm. What else? I am disappointed that we lost the tree grant. I don't know why. I know Mr. Volker said that it was other grants out there. I'm sorry we didn't take advantage of this one, so I am sorry we lost this grant. I just don't understand why we don't vote on these things. So we vote to accept grants, to apply for grants, and do everything with a grant. But when it comes to eliminating a grant or not accepting it, we don't have any say in it. So I don't think it can be that way. It's either one way or the other. Either we never vote on any of this, or we vote on every portion of this. So I think that's a little troubling, and I think we need some clarification on that. And that's all I have to say.
Councilmember Kadish?
I'm involved in organizing a senior fair for 3 towns, Hamburg, Hardiston, and Vernon. It'll be held on April 26th from, I believe, 6 to 9, and it'll be held at Crystal Springs. And we're organizing a kind of information center for all seniors, put together about 15 different associations and institutions to have crisis management when they come to 60 or 65 years old. We often find ourselves in a situation where a family member needs institutional care, emergency services. What happens when you go to the hospital? Are there pet care takers available? And all sorts of information that takes place. I don't know how many of you have been through a hospice experience, but these are incredible resources that we have available, and we're just making this information available to all. Thank you.
And what's the date? I'm sorry.
April 26th.
At Crystal Springs?
Yeah, Thursday.
Councilmember?
Yes. It was nice to see the town come together as one. I mean, I was at the school over there, and they served like 350 meals. The restaurants, pretty amazing, the food that they brought out. It was truly amazing. And just so you know, you might say I don't say anything or have a voice, but every week I stop down at this building 3 or 4 times to ask questions over all the ordinances and everything. So I do have a voice. I'm making my voice heard by the votes. So, you know, I know a lot of people prefer to discuss it here. I prefer to discuss it with the people that make the ordinances. You know, don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. That's all I have to say.
Same. I was going to thank the Board of Ed, thank everybody that volunteered, thank all the restaurants. We ought to send something out to them or recognize them for everything they did this past weekend. And that's all I have.
Well, and actually, when it comes to that, the dinners that were served at Glen Meadow School that night, actually, the person to thank is Lori LaPera from the Board of Ed. She was the one that organized that within a few hours, had as many volunteers as she needed. People were coming through the door. They just started showing up, and these were neighbors. Everything took off without a hitch. When food ran out, the restaurants were more than happy to donate more because it was difficult. You never know who's going to show up. So it was a great effort by everyone. As far as, it's several times it's been noted that, people watch the amount of time I spend at the municipal building. I ran to do a job. I was elected by the people, and I will continue to do the job I'm doing. I come in here as often as possible to get my answers, to get things done, to do what I was elected to do. I will not be intimidated or bullied by anyone that wants to step up to the podium and attempt to do it. It's a shame that they can't work with the town instead of continually showing up in this. And
Ma'am,
this is a prime example.
Point of order. Can you please stop yelling from the audience?
Prime example is the shouting from the audience. It's unfortunately, this just continues. As far as council members getting the information, all of the council members receive information on a timely manner. They're given an opportunity to actually ask questions. It's really to our benefit to go and ask questions before the meeting. It's certainly acceptable to have healthy debate, but you should be informed. We can meet with the mayor, we can meet with the clerk, we can call the attorneys, either one, get information. We can go visit Mr. Volker. They provide the information. There's absolutely no reason to show up at a meeting unprepared and then to ask questions of the administration, and they do not have the documents ready. We should be here, we should have the answers, and we should know what we're voting on, and there's still no reason to not have a debate, but you should show up and your homework should be done. That's expected with children. Never mind being in...
Ma'am, can you please stop yelling from the audience?
I am not speaking to you. Excuse me. Can I make my comments?
I believe you are speaking
Then you
to
must
me.
feel guilty because I never mentioned anyone's name.
Well,
I'm talking about all of the council members.
Because I do ask questions.
I'm talking about all of the council members. When Mr. Van Tassel first was elected, that's what he said. He's like, well, where do I get my information? And I explained to him, go get your, you can go here, go there. You get your agenda. If you have any questions, I will try to point you in the direction as it continues in the audience. So that...
Ms. Murphy, I just want
that's
to say
all.
something.
Meeting to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Wait, no, not meeting to adjourn. Hold on a second.
Second.
Hey, I'm still speaking.
No, hey. All in favor?
Okay. Down again?
Some of my questions...
I'm not shutting her down. I have absolutely nothing to say.
Excuse me. I do want to say something. Thank you, Mr. Wahlberger, for your attention. Some of my questions, I do know the answers, but I throw out these questions so everybody can understand the issues.
Not a problem.
If I come and I ask a question to the administration, then I'm going to come back at the council meeting and ask the same question. So
I guess that's something, you know what,
this
I will take
is
credit for that
for
because I
people
actually
here.
taught you that, because that's what I did in 2014. So thank you for that, because that's actually what I did. But you know what? You should show up, and you should have some of the answers. You shouldn't be shocked.
I have some of the answers here. I can
shouldn't
read.
be shocked. Motion to adjourn.
Well, that I'll make a motion to do.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.